Listen to me carefully, chosen one. This is not a theory. This is not another prophecy to entertain your curiosity. This is a divine evacuation order, a command from heaven itself. You've heard the warnings about wars, rumors of wars, false prophets, famines, and persecutions. But there's something most pastors will never tell you. Something Jesus said, that has been buried under layers of tradition and silence. Geographical warnings. Yes, Jesus didn't just warn us about what would happen. He warned us about where it would happen. Real physical locations that are already marked. Destinations where the enemy's agenda will be unleashed in full force. Places that look normal today, but will be ground zero when the tribulation strikes. And while people are distracted, while the world laughs, the Spirit of God is urgently whispering, "Get out of there, my people." You might think you're safe because you're spiritually awake. But being chosen isn't enough if you're standing on cursed ground. This is not a message of fear. It's a map of survival. In this video, we will expose 3 specific places that will be utterly destroyed during the tribulation. Places that many of you might be living in right now. Places that the enemy has disguised as blessings. But today, the veil is about to be ripped off. This is not a drill. This is a life or death alignment. Because when the collapse begins, it won't be your knowledge of Scripture that saves you. It will be your position, physically, spiritually, prophetically. And if you're watching this video, it's because heaven chose you to receive this warning before it's too late. You are part of the remnant, the few who still have ears to hear. But hearing is not enough. You must act. So here's what you need to do right now. Like this video. This isn't about numbers. It's about pushing this warning to every chosen one trapped in the wrong place. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because the next instructions from heaven will be released here, and comment 99 below. That number is not random. It represents the remnant flock, the ones Jesus leaves the 99 to go after the one. But in these times, it also marks the few who refuse to stay asleep while Babylon burns. Are you ready to know which places must be abandoned before it's too late? Then stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will shake everything you thought was safe. The first place you must escape is the very place you thought was your safe zone, the great cities. They shine with lights that never dim, towers that scrape the heavens. They promise opportunity, success, influence. But behind the glitter, they are modern-day Babylons, perfectly engineered traps designed to keep you distracted until it's too late. These urban giants are not just geographical locations. They are spiritual fortresses where the enemy's blueprint is executed with precision. The culture of vanity, the worship of self, the elevation of human power. It's all concentrated here. Every street corner is an altar. Every billboard a sermon. Every event a ritual of pride disguised as progress. But here's what most don't see. While these cities rise higher in their arrogance, their foundations are cracking beneath their feet. Revelation 18 is not a poetic warning. It's a detailed description of what's coming. In one day, her plagues will overtake her. Not in a year, not in a decade, in a single day. The collapse will be sudden, brutal, irreversible. Supermarkets will be looted within hours. Banks will freeze. Digital systems will glitch and fail. The transportation that keeps these cities alive will grind to a halt, and millions will be trapped. Think about it. Cities are designed for control. Every highway, every building, every surveillance camera. It's a grid, a system that can be turned off with a single command. And when that moment arrives, the chaos will not knock on the door. It will kick it down. And yet, this is where many chosen ones live. Not because they love Babylon, but because Babylon made them believe they needed her. For jobs, for safety, for community. But hear me, provision does not come from a city, it comes from the hand of God. When Jesus said, "Flee to the mountains," he wasn't speaking in parables. He wasn't telling us to simply pray harder or stay strong. He was issuing a geographic evacuation order, a literal move. Because no amount of spiritual discipline can change the fate of a location marked for judgment. Remember Jerusalem, the holy city, the city of the great king. Even it was not spared when it rejected divine warnings. If Jerusalem fell, what makes you think the proud, godless metropolises of today will survive? And here's a revelation most are not ready to hear. The chaos won't begin with the Antichrist's rise. It won't start with some grand apocalyptic sign in the sky. No, it will begin with systemic collapse from within. Lawlessness will erupt, not because of global events, but because the structures humanity trusted will fail them. The supply chains, the healthcare systems, the digital economies, they are all more fragile than you've been led to believe. And when one pillar crumbles, it will trigger a domino effect no human authority can stop. Chosen one, this is not a warning to induce fear. This is a wake-up call to reposition yourself. It's time to discern the difference between comfort and covenant, between security and obedience. The great cities are countdowns in disguise. And while the world is busy admiring their skyline, heaven is already marking the hour of their fall. But I'll leave you with this question, a question that will linger until the next revelation. What if the very place you called home is the first place heaven has scheduled for demolition? Stay with me, because in the next moment I will expose the second type of place, a place even more deceptive. A place where souls are bought and sold, not in secret, but in broad daylight. Now, we're going deeper. The second location is not loud. It doesn't shout at you. It seduces you. It makes you feel important, connected, and successful. But behind its polished glass towers and extravagant luxury, it is a global web of spiritual slavery. I'm talking about the centers of global wealth, the financial thrones of this world, where human pride is worshipped in silence, and decisions that shape entire nations are made in boardrooms where no one bows their head in prayer. These places don't need to look dangerous. Their power is in how harmless they seem. A place of opportunities, high-level connections, a playground for the elite. But Revelation 18:11-13 rips off the mask and exposes the rot beneath the gold. The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her, because no one buys their cargo anymore. Cargoes of gold, silver, precious stones, and human souls. Human souls. Do you understand what that means? It means the modern marketplace is no longer about products. It's about identities, values, minds, cultures. These centers of wealth are not just trading commodities. They are trafficking worldviews, manipulating generations, transforming people into programmable resources for a system that despises God. It's subtle, it's intelligent, and it's extremely effective. The chosen ones who find themselves working, living, or depending on these systems often believe they're immune because their heart is in the right place. But here's the bitter truth. The system doesn't care about your heart. It only cares about your participation. Because the moment you're entangled in its web, you become a cog in a machine that's preparing itself for judgment. What sustains you today may become the very thing that traps you tomorrow. You see, Babylon isn't just a city. It's a spiritual economy, an empire that feeds on human ambition, trading authenticity for influence, trading truth for profit. It's a seductive current that pulls even the well-intentioned into waters they were never meant to swim in. The financial hubs of this world, Mega capitals, tech empires, global trade zones, they're the heart of this system. Every transaction, every merger, every deal made in these places builds another layer of the beast's infrastructure. And once it's complete, the same system that enriched you will demand your allegiance. That's why Revelation says, "In 1 hour, such great wealth has been brought to ruin." Not because the economy fluctuated, but because God's judgment does not run on human timelines. For many chosen ones, this will be the hardest pill to swallow. You've worked hard. You've built a life. Maybe your entire livelihood is tied to these systems. But let me tell you something. Provision is not the same as purpose. God's provision follows his purpose, not Babylon's payroll. Remaining attached to these hubs of wealth, thinking you're an exception, is a spiritual death sentence. It's a slow entrapment. One deal at a time. One compromise at a time. Until you wake up one day, realizing that the system owns you. But there's hope. The Spirit of God is not just revealing the problem. He's offering you a strategy of escape. Detach. Discern. Move. Detach from the illusion that your safety is found in the size of your bank account. Discern the subtle shifts in your environment, where the spirit of truth is being replaced by the spirit of greed. And when God says move, whether physically, financially, or spiritually, don't hesitate. Because those who hesitate will be swept away when the collapse begins. Now I know what you're thinking. If not here, then where? But that's the wrong question. The real question is, am I positioned where God's hand will cover me when judgment falls? Chosen one, this is not about poverty or prosperity. It's about prophetic positioning, being exactly where God told you to be. So when the world's economy crashes, you're standing on heaven's economy, untouchable, unshaken. But the most dangerous deception is yet to come. Because there's a third type of place. A place where many chosen ones think they are safe. A place that wears the mask of holiness, but behind the scenes has become a graveyard for the Spirit of God. And in the next moment, I'll show you why the most dangerous location isn't outside the church, but inside it. The third location is the most treacherous of them all, because it wears the mask of holiness. It speaks the language of heaven, but heaven no longer speaks back. I'm talking about religious safe zones, churches, ministries, entire regions that proudly display the banner of faith, yet have quietly evicted the Spirit of God. And the most dangerous part? They still look alive. Jesus warned us, "Many will come in my name and deceive many." Not as atheists, not as enemies of the faith, but as leaders, influencers, shepherds, speaking his name while walking in the exact opposite direction. These are institutions that preach comfort, but never repentance. They perfect the art of religious performance, the lights, the music, the emotional highs, but behind the scenes, the altar is empty, the presence is gone, and the people are asleep. You see, not every place that invokes God's name is a sanctuary. Some are spiritual prisons, designed to pacify the chosen ones, to numb their discernment, to convince them that being entertained is the same as being transformed. And during the tribulation, these places will become death traps. While the world collapses outside, many will flock to these safe zones, believing that because it's labeled a church, it must be protected. But what they don't realize is that God's protection is not attached to a building. It's attached to obedience. These places once carried his glory, but they traded it for relevance, for influence, for financial gain. They watered down the gospel to avoid offending the masses. They replaced altars of sacrifice with stages of performance. They exchanged the fire of the Spirit for the approval of the crowd. And now, they are hollow. They've become whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside but filled with spiritual death. Chosen one, this is where discernment becomes your only defense. Because in the days ahead, deception won't come dressed as evil. It will come dressed as everything you've been taught to trust. Not every revival is divine. Not every preacher is a shepherd. Not every church is a refuge. During the tribulation, these religious safe zones will serve as nets, ensnaring souls under a false sense of security. People will run to them seeking shelter, but instead of finding life, they will be handed spiritual blindness. The messages will soothe the flesh, but suffocate the spirit. The sermons will promise peace, while the storm rages outside, and they will have no answers, because they never prepared. Remember this: the Spirit of God will never dwell where He is no longer Lord. It doesn't matter how grand the building is, how famous the preacher is, or how emotional the service becomes. If God has withdrawn His presence, that place becomes a battlefield, and everyone inside is unarmed. And here's the most painful part. Many chosen ones are trapped in these environments right now. Not because they're rebellious, but because they've been misled by a system that knows how to entertain, but not how to equip. But God, in His mercy, is raising your awareness. He's pulling back the curtain and showing you the cracks, the empty words, the repetitive cycles that never lead to transformation. If you've been feeling uneasy, disconnected, restless in those environments, it's not you being rebellious. It's your spirit responding to God's call to come out. Just like Jesus told His disciples to leave them, they are blind guides. He is now telling His chosen ones to exit these zones of false security before they collapse with everyone still inside. Because when the shaking begins, these structures will not stand. Their foundation is sand, and their leadership is asleep at the wheel. Chosen one, God is not looking for structures. He's looking for altars. Not the ones made of marble and gold, but the ones built in hearts that burn with obedience. You can be in a small, hidden place, even alone, and be more protected than those sitting in mega sanctuaries that God has already abandoned. So here's the question you must ask yourself today. Am I in a place where God still moves, or am I clinging to a place where He has already left? Because remaining in these zones of deception is not loyalty, it's spiritual suicide. But this isn't the end of the revelation, because everything I've shared so far, the cities, the wealth centers, the religious facades, they're not isolated threats. They are all part of a larger, sinister system, a global mechanism designed to funnel humanity into one final deception. And in the next moment, I will expose how modern Babylon is not just a place, but a living spirit that's already moving towards its ultimate collapse. We are now stepping into the heart of the deception. What if I told you that everything you see, every news headline, every economic trend, every political movement, every religious shift is not happening by accident? What if I told you that it's all being woven together into a single, colossal illusion? This is Babel's illusion. It's not just a system. It's not just an agenda. It's a living spirit, a global mechanism designed to unite humanity under a false promise of progress, while secretly preparing them for spiritual enslavement. Modern Babylon isn't a city you can point to on a map. It's not limited to capitals or financial districts. It operates through invisible networks, media conglomerates, digital platforms, political alliances, religious ecumenism, all synchronized to create the illusion of unity. Unity sounds good, right? But this unity is not built on truth. It's built on compromise. It's a unity that demands you silence your convictions, that you dilute your discernment, that you conform or be cast out. The media broadcasts it, the economy enforces it, the governments legislate it, and tragically, many churches endorse it. It's a convergence of power, culture, and ideology, all leading to one unavoidable conclusion: a world that collectively rebels against God while believing it is evolving. This is why discernment is no longer optional for the chosen ones, because this web is not obvious. It's subtle. It flatters your intelligence, appeals to your empathy, and cloaks itself in words like progress, inclusivity, and global peace. But behind the curtain, it's constructing a cage for your soul. Remember the Tower of Babel? Humanity's first attempt to create a man-made unity that defied heaven's order. They wanted to build a name for themselves, a monument to their own greatness. God scattered them then. But the spirit of Babel was never destroyed. It mutated. It evolved. And today, it's back. With technology, with influence, with reach that the ancient builders could never imagine. But its heart remains the same. We will ascend. We will build. We will be as gods. And here's the terrifying part. The convergence is almost complete. Look around. Do you see how economies are aligning under global policies? How technology is standardizing the way we think, act, and even feel? How media narratives are synchronized across continents? How religions are being pushed toward a one-world belief system that denies the exclusivity of Christ? This is not random. This is prophetic precision. The book of Revelation paints this moment in vivid colors. Babylon sitting upon many waters, ruling over peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. She's dressed in splendor, intoxicated with her own influence, unaware that judgment is knocking at her door. And yet, while the world celebrates this false unity, heaven's message remains crystal clear. Come out of her, my people. Not blend in, not influence from within. Come out, separate. Align yourself with the kingdom, not with the counterfeit. Chosen one. The urgency is not just about avoiding danger. It's about preserving your identity. Because Babylon's greatest weapon isn't destruction, it's assimilation. It wants you to forget who you are. It wants you to trade your prophetic DNA for societal acceptance. And once you conform, you no longer pose a threat. But escaping isn't an act of fear. It's a divine strategy. It's understanding that survival isn't about how strong you stand in the middle of the collapse. It's about whether you're positioned where God's hand can cover you when the system crumbles. This illusion of Babel is mesmerizing, but only to those who are spiritually asleep. For the chosen ones, there's a tension inside, a spiritual discomfort that refuses to be silenced. You feel it when the world applauds what heaven grieves. You feel it when compromise is celebrated, and truth is called offensive. That's your sign. That's your cue. You were never designed to fit into Babel's mold. You were designed to break it. But before we move to the final revelation, ask yourself this. Am I still connected to a system that God has already sentenced to collapse? Because what's coming next is not just about places. It's about people. It's about the chosen ones who, despite all odds, will stand protected while the world unravels. And in the next moment, I will show you the critical call to discernment and obedience, the final act of preparation that will determine whether you survive or fall with Babylon. Chosen one, listen to me. Up until now, you've been shown the maps, the danger zones, the spiritual traps disguised as safe zones. You now know where not to be, but knowing is not enough. Discernment without obedience is spiritual suicide. You can recognize every sign. You can decode every prophecy. But if you remain paralyzed, if you hesitate when God says, move, all of it becomes worthless. The difference between the protected and the exposed in these last days will not be knowledge. It will be obedience. Jesus didn't say be informed, he said be prepared. But this preparation isn't what the world teaches. It's not about stockpiling resources or building bunkers or crafting escape plans based on human logic. No. The preparation that will preserve you is invisible to the world's eyes. It's a preparation of the heart. It's the daily discipline of silencing the noise, so you can hear when the Holy Spirit whispers, now. It's the kind of readiness that doesn't flinch when God's instructions disrupt your plans, your routines, your comforts. Because the moment of movement will not come with a calendar alert. It will come like a thief in the night. And only those who are spiritually awake will respond in time. Chosen one, you are not called to survive in the ruins of Babylon. You are called to live under the unshakable shelter of God's presence. But understand this, that shelter is not a location. It's a realm of obedience. Every act of obedience builds a wall of protection around you. Every moment of discernment clears a path where no enemy can follow. But here's the secret most overlook. Obedience begins before the crisis. You don't wait for the flood to start building the ark. You don't wait for the collapse to start detaching from Babylon's systems. Obedience is a seed planted in the calm that bears fruit in the storm. There's a powerful deception that keeps many chosen ones trapped. It's the lie that says, when things get worse, then I'll move, then I'll obey. But by the time the collapse becomes visible, it will already be too late. The door will be shut. The path will be blocked. The window of movement is now. Every step you take in obedience now, even if it feels small, even if it feels unnecessary, is constructing a supernatural shield for what's coming. And here's where the power of discernment becomes your lifeline. Discernment is not just about seeing what others miss. It's about reacting when heaven moves. It's the ability to detect shifts in the spiritual atmosphere. To feel when God's cloud is lifting from a place you once called home. To recognize when a good thing has expired. And most importantly, to act. Not tomorrow, not when it feels convenient, but in the exact moment God says, move. Because the tribulation will be merciless to those who delay. You are not just surviving this era. You are navigating a prophetic minefield, and the only safe path is the one God lights step by step. It requires sensitivity, flexibility, a heart that is more loyal to the voice of the Spirit than to human logic. The chosen ones who endure will not be the strongest. They will be the most responsive to correction, responsive to whispers, responsive to shifts that the world will never notice. And this, my friend, is your edge. This is your divine advantage. But the clock is ticking. There will be a moment, very soon, when God will give a final instruction, a last-minute direction that will seem illogical to those who are asleep. It will separate the remnant from the crowd, the prepared from the exposed, and when that moment comes, you must be ready to obey without hesitation. But let me ask you something that will haunt you, in a good way, until the end of this message. If God told you to leave everything today, would you be free enough to follow him instantly? Because in the final moments, the ones who are free will be the ones who are saved. And in the next breath, I will reveal how this obedience leads to the most unstoppable force of protection over the chosen ones. A divine shield that no collapse, no deception, no enemy can penetrate. Chosen one, Everything you've heard in this message was not to inform you. It was to awaken you. This is not a story of collapse. This is a strategy of deliverance. Yes, Babylon will fall. The systems of man will crumble. The illusions of safety will shatter. But while the world is swallowed by chaos, you, yes, you, are being positioned for supernatural preservation. This is not about survival. This is about alignment with divine destiny. God is not calling you to be a victim of these times. He is calling you to be a witness of His glory in the midst of the storm. A remnant that doesn't just endure, but emerges refined, unshaken, unstoppable. The tribulation is not the end of your story. It is the passageway, the refining fire that separates those who merely believed from those who obeyed. And after the darkest hours of judgment, there is a dawn of glory reserved for the chosen ones. A new Jerusalem, a city not built by human hands where pain will be a forgotten memory, death will have no voice and fear will never enter again. But make no mistake, that promise is not for the curious. It is not for the comfortable. It is reserved for those who discern the deception, obey the call, and move when the Spirit says move. Chosen one, this is your divine evacuation order, not out of fear, but out of prophetic urgency. You are not being called to hide. You are being called to align yourself with heaven's map, a map that will take you off the grid of Babylon's illusions and position you directly under the shelter of the Almighty. And now I'm speaking directly to your spirit. Get out of the danger zones. Leave the places where God's presence has departed. Disconnect from systems that are already sentenced. Refuse to be a pawn in Babel's final deception. Your destiny is not in their ruins. Your destiny is in the promise. So here's what I need you to do right now, as a prophetic act of alignment. Drop a comment below and declare, I will be in the right place. Write it, speak it, claim it. Because this isn't the end of your story. This is the beginning of your greatest deliverance. Chosen one, you were born for this moment. You were awakened for this hour. You were positioned for this victory. Now move.